Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the All-American Savage Show podcast. I am your host, John Burke. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning here outside of Dallas, Texas. We appreciate you being here with us this morning, or this afternoon, rather, because we got a little late start. So, if you were just tuning in, I've got some exciting news for you. Now, if you're watching me on Twitch, and again, just a reminder, this will be the last week that we're going to be streaming on Facebook and YouTube due to the censorship. Twitch has actually been good to us. So in the future, after this week, we'll be streaming primarily to the Twitch platform. When Rumble figures its shit out, we'll figure out a way to go live stream fully over there. I mean, we do on occasion, but we've got some good news. You asked for it, and we're doing it. We just finished wrapping up filming the next series of the John Ross Paint Like a Feminist, which will be coming to YouTube and Rumble. Now, we've had a lot of people asking for it, and if you look to my left, your right via the camera, you're going to see what I actually painted. It is a depiction of one of the most racist things that is going on right now in the world. The world. And of course, the name of this video, that it should be up by tomorrow, I believe, probably latest will be Thursday, is How to Paint Like a Racist. Oh, that's right. That's right, we're doing it. You asked, and we're doing it. So the reason I decided to do that is because we see a lot of racism in the news today, and Justin Trudeau has apparently called the Canadian truckers a movement of racism and things such as that. So again, I thought it was very fitting that we paint the most racist thing out there, and that would be the Canadian flag. And that painting on my left, your right, is going to be available for a giveaway. We're not selling them anymore. We're going to pick a lucky winner. One of you, one of the viewers, one of the listeners of this podcast or watchers on Twitch and things such as that, one of the members of the Savage Army is going to win this painting, as well as other paintings that I've kept in the vault that have not been sold, just by signing up to our email list at allamericansavageshow.com. Again, that is allamericansavageshow.com. All you have to do is be a member of that list, and we're going to pick a random winner for each one of the paintings moving forward. It's pretty cool, right? Doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay for it. I'll cover shipping and everything. But if you sign up on allamericansavageshow.com, go into the email list at the very bottom, or a little pop-up thing, enter your email, and we're also going to blast out emails when we're launching a new John Ross video. Because as you know, we've got almost 300,000 people on YouTube, and not a lot of them know that we do these live streams. They don't know when the paintings are being released or the videos are being done, because YouTube censors everything, and they don't notify the audience when something new pops up. So this is a way for me to directly communicate with you, the viewer, when we're launching something new. Now, you have my word. We will not spam you. We're not going to target you with all kinds of bullshit. It's just that if I ever get censored, you have a way of communicating with me, and you'll know what I'm doing. The podcast shall continue. We're hitting some great numbers on the podcast. A big thank you to all the supporters that are doing that for us, that you're sharing the podcast. You're leaving us great reviews on iTunes, on Spotify, on SoundCloud. We cannot thank you enough for doing this. It really helps us out quite a lot. And thank you for all the support over on shellshockcbd.com. Now, people are asking, what happens to the live streams on YouTube? I have to pull them down because essentially Facebook censors the shit out of them. So as soon as they're done with the live stream, I delete it. That's just the way it goes. It still remains live over on Twitch, but you can download and listen to the podcasts on, again, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Just Google or go type in John Burke or allamericansavageshow.com. You'll find it there. So we appreciate it. So, as I said before, every Tuesday and Thursday, we're going to be pushing into a different segment called Dear John. Yes, I know. It's fitting. It's very fitting. Where you, the listeners, can write into the show via the website, allamericansavageshow.com, under the Dear John tab at the top, and essentially ask me questions, anything that you want to talk about, you want to hear discussed on the show. I've got some really good questions here, and things that just going to help me get a little bit more personable with you, the viewer and the listener. And again, I take a step back today, and I've kind of looked at how far we've come as a podcast, as a business, personally, and I have to say that I have to be very grateful and thankful of how blessed I am to have good people in my life, that I've had to go through a string of bad people to find the good ones and keep them around. And I'm blessed. I'm very blessed. So I just want to put that out there. And maybe if you're listening to this, just take a moment, and you might be going through a very difficult time right now. I know on social media, everybody's racist. Everything is bad. The world is burning down. But if you just walk out your front door, if you put your phone down for 2 seconds, you'll see that it's not as bad as people think it is. Social media creates a perception of a different alternate reality that honestly does not exist. I get caught up into it. I forget about things sometimes. I'm guilty of this. This is what I do for a living. But I would encourage you to just put the phone down on occasion and look around and really take account of the blessings that you have in your life and the good people you've got, the friendships, the relationships, the job, whatever the case may be. So I was just doing that today. And I don't know why I said that, but I just want to put that out there and say thank you for all that you've done for me, all my endeavors, people that have stuck with me through thick and thin. I wouldn't be here without you, and I'm very grateful. And we've done this all on our own. We've had no help as far as this business goes, the social media platforms, the podcast. We've done it inside. We've had no external help. And I can't thank y'all enough for making that happen. So, all right, enough of this shit. And I see people asking me questions on Twitch. Nope, you got to write into the show at Dear John, just like everybody else. So let's get into it. Let's get started with this. And the first question I got, it's a very good question. And I'm going to be completely transparent and honest with y'all about this. I've always tried to do my best to be that way. This is coming from Jack. And Jack writes in to Dear John. He says, "Hey, John, let me start off by saying I love your content and I also love your CBD products. Thank you for that. That being said, you've mentioned that you've had 2 failed marriages. I recently got out of my joke of a marriage in October. My close friends and family inquire about me getting with another woman after learning the hard way and experiencing many ridiculous situations I put myself into. I choose to look at my divorce as a learning tool, but I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in future relationships because I'm traumatized sexually and have serious physical problems. I've been getting the reach around with the VA. What are your thoughts using your own experiences to offer me a bit of help so when I get back into the pond and start getting on the prowl? Any insight would be great, man. You guys keep up the hard work and hard fight. More John Ross." Well, thank you, Jack, for that question. That was a very long question. There's a lot to unpack there. But first, let me preface this. I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. This is me, just a dude talking to another dude here and giving you my own expertise on this, that I've been down this road. And it's a very difficult road, with the ending of a relationship, the ending of a marriage, or any type of similar romantic engagement. There's a lot that goes into that as far as what makes us sad, because I think the biggest thing that makes people sad is it's the ending of what could have been. When you meet somebody and you feel that connection and you feel that spark and things like that, and it doesn't work out, I think sometimes it's not mourning just the ending of the relationship. It's mourning, again, like I said, the ending of what could have been, the plans that you were making either openly or in your head of what you want to do in your life with this person right beside you. And then you realize that person is no longer going to be there and you're kind of left on your own. So the feelings of abandonment can come in there, the feelings of isolation and things like that. But the one thing I've learned, and I need to rephrase it, I shouldn't say 2 failed marriages. I would say more so 2 learning experiences, 2 very good learning experiences. And when a relationship ends, and this is 37-year-old John telling you this, that you've got to take a step back and evaluate what you took from that relationship, the good, the bad, but more importantly, the lessons that you learned. I know in relationships that I've been in the past, I've had to work on how I communicate, to sometimes understand that to be aggressive is not always such a good thing. And it's very difficult for me because I was raised to be aggressive. I was raised to be in such a manner through the Army. You're trained to be alpha. You're trained to be a go-getter. Well, when you're dealing with a woman, and I know that sounds very sexist, but I'm just going to be honest with you. Women are very emotional creatures. They are very emotional creatures. And I think that's what makes them so different than men, but good, because they tap into emotions that I feel like a lot of men can't. We don't easily tap into those emotions of nurturing and love and understanding. For a lot of the people that I grew up with and how I was raised, we're very just masculine. You can just shut down at a moment's notice and be perfectly fine. Well, I shouldn't say perfectly fine, but you get where I'm going with that. But women have a different approach to things. I've always said that in the movies, you never hear a guy that's dying in combat scream out for dad. It's always mom, because mom is the representation of love, of safety, of compassion, of the person that will always be there for you to go to with your problems. So when having a conversation with a woman, I've had to learn, and and when I say learn and working on, it does not mean I have perfected this by any stretch of the imagination. I have not. But I've come to the understanding in relationships in the past that I have to work on how I communicate with people or how I communicate with the woman I'm with and not be overly aggressive. Try and be more logical, not be as confrontational. And then that's things that I've learned as of late in relationships. So when you come out of a relationship, you really need to ask yourself, what did I take away from that? Did I do anything wrong? Did she do anything wrong? Why did this relationship fail? How can I take away learning points to apply this to relationships in the future? That's what you should be looking at. Now, I will give you some personal experience of my own. I guess we're just going to do a dating show now, but whatever, we'll roll with it. The thing that's made it difficult to date in this society that we live in is that social media has created the perception that women want a more effeminate man. And I could not find that to be more untrue. I think women, well, it depends on the type of woman you're looking for, but I think the overwhelming majority of women want a masculine alpha male. They don't want a beta male. They want a man that's going to lead. Now, I know the misogynists are going to, or the feminists are going to scream bloody murder on this one. But when two people are dancing, someone has to lead. There's got to be a leader. Now, I was going to have a guest on. He hasn't got back to me. He runs the Instagram account, I forget what it's called. He's a very good account on Instagram. He talks about masculinity. True masculinity is understanding that the man is leading. The man has got to lead. But I don't mean lead in the sense of he's telling the woman what to do. It's that the woman trusts him enough in the relationship and the household that he is leading them in regards to just everything. But it's also not turning around and treating her like a doormat. For example, when my father was with us in our family, he was the head of the household. He led the household, but he consulted with my mother on decisions within the household, finances, the upbringing of the children, essentially gave her what she needed to function and run a healthy household. And then he would go out to work. That's how it was. Now, I'm not saying that should be the case for every single relationship out there, but the reason I say that is because you have to establish and figure out what kind of man you are. What kind of relationship is it that you are looking for? Do you want to be the alpha type man that's going to be the head, or are you looking for more of a partner role? Are you comfortable with that? You've got to ask yourself that, because I'm not trying to sit there and say there's a one-size-fits-all for every relationship out there. But first, you have to have a lot of self-understanding about you, your worth, what you bring to the table in a relationship. And I'm going to hit some really hard points here because it's going to upset a lot of people, but I think most people will understand what I'm trying to say here. For men and women out there, when I go on a date, when I'm single, when I was single before, when I go out on a date, if that woman is not ambitious, if she's not driven, if she's not successful, if she's not financially independent, I don't want anything to do with her. Look, that's just the truth. That's the truth. I've invested a lot into myself, and many of you since 2015 when I started on social media have seen my own growth as far as maturing, understanding more things about the Constitution, liberty, romantic. I've made mistakes in the past. I won't cover that up. I have fucked up in the past. I'm a human being. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to live in a glass house. I've done wrong, and I've been sorry for that. But I also understand the worth that I bring to the table. Successful, financially successful, business owner. A lot of personal investment into bettering myself as not only a human being, but as a man. Just various things like that. I know I have humor. I have a lot of things going for me. So I am never going to lower my standard for a woman that has no personal investment, that has no motivation. Why would I? That's settling. That's really settling. And I think when you do something like that, you know, there's going to be a tip in the balance of who brings what to the relationship. Because if the man is always financially supporting the woman and she's not financially independent, he's going to kind of take that for, I shouldn't say granted, but he's going to be a little pissed off about that. Because if she can't afford stuff and it's always him paying for it, there's a problem there. Unless that's the dynamic of your relationship and you have no problem with that. But for me, It's got to be a woman that works. She's got a career. She doesn't want kids. She's fine with that because I don't want to have kids. Things like that. You have to establish and understand who it is that you are as a person, what it is that you're looking for in a relationship. The biggest thing I will say, though, getting back into the dating world, be honest. Just be honest. Like, here's here's some serious thing that I think a lot of dudes don't realize. Like, when I was on Tinder, when I was in the dating world, I would tell women straight out if I was attracted to them or not. And fuck it, here we go. Like, I would tell women, it's like, I find you very physically attractive, but I'm just not attracted to you. And as far as a relationship, I would love to have sex with you, but there's probably not going to be a relationship afterwards. And guess what happened? We'd have sex. Just being honest. People kind of see something like that as being a little mean, but I would rather have somebody come up to me and tell me just straight out the gate what it is they're looking for, what they want, if there is no attraction, whatever the case, because at least if you're honest and upfront about things, and I haven't always been, I've always kind of been, sometimes I've been a little afraid to tell the truth, but you can't do that. You've got to be honest with people like that. But I got laid. I got laid a lot until I found the one that was really for me. So, you got to take that into account. Honesty up front is a great thing to have. Just be honest about what it is that you're looking for. And here's the other thing. If you are not looking for a serious relationship, then you need to make that known right off the bat. If you are, you need to make that known right off the bat. It's kind of like going into a business arrangement saying, these are my expectations. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. And that way people know. It's kind of like, I almost think that people should like come up with a menu when you're going on a first date. It's like, look, this is what I do. This is what I'm looking for. This is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. Are you attracted or are you not? Now, when it comes to sexual attraction, I feel like most relationships, the initial attraction is based upon sexual desire. And what I mean by that is, and I've talked about this in previous shows, is that you go into a bar, and I'm walking into a bar, a club, a whatever, and you see that woman across the bar. The woman sees that guy across the bar, and she's like, oh, damn, he's hot. That's the initial sexual attraction because you find them attractive to look at, right? That makes no sense. That doesn't make you shallow. It makes you a human being. So that's the initial stage, is like, do I find her sexually attractive? That's the easy stage, quite honestly. That's the easiest stage there is. The hardest part is when you sit down with that individual and you start getting to know them. Because I can tell you more times than not, that woman could be a smoke show. You sit down, it's like, oh my God, have you always liked, your pasta like that? That's so crazy. And I'm instantly turned off. When there's no intelligence, I'm instantly turned off. And that's usually where I'll tell them, is like, look, I'm not attracted to you. I would love to fuck your brains out. Not gonna lie, I'm a dude. And I want to get to that later as well, because I was wrong on a lot of the stuff. I was wrong, like, dude, I was so wrong. But if there was not an emotional connection or an intellectual connection, I wasn't attracted to them. And the hard part about that is sometimes it took a week to figure that out. Sometimes it would take a month to figure that out. And that's what dating is. That's essentially what it is, until you figure out that, you like it. And somebody says you are a degenerate. You can call me whatever you want. I really don't fucking care. The fact that I'm honest with people and you don't like that, so what? How does that make somebody a degenerate? That just makes them honest. But again, you're probably one of these Bible thumpers out there that feel like, behind closed doors, you're probably perverted yourself. So do me a favor, go fuck yourself. Don't really care. Bye, you're banned. But that's just my 2 cents on that. You're a degenerate. Like, what is a degenerate? Let me look that up real quick. That's actually a good thing. I mean, I know basically what a degenerate is, but what's the actual definition of a degenerate? Degenerate. And I haven't even looked at the definition, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he's probably got the definition. He's using the word wrong. Degenerate. Having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline. What? Lacking some proper propriety, order, and distinctiveness and structure previously or usually present. I'm not sure where you're getting degenerate from on this. Or maybe it's because you don't like how I am, but you just want to use a different word to describe me. That's fine. But again, the point still stands. When you sit down with that person and you kind of start the interview process, and I hate to say it in that way, just keep that in mind. But it's the interview process, and you've got to figure out essentially where you connect. Like, is this somebody you could see yourself having a future with? Now, one thing I will warn you against is if you talked about that you are sexually traumatized, possibly seek therapy for that. Because I'll tell you this right now, if you are not ready to date and there's some kind of trauma there are still residual feelings and things like that, you need to understand that you should not be dating if that's how you are. You need to fix yourself before you get back in that dating pool. I've done that myself, and I was wrong for it because you'll hurt people unintentionally, because you'll probably come to realize, like, maybe I shouldn't be dating. You've got to work on yourself. Take time to work on yourself. Take time to get to know yourself. Being alone is not always a bad thing, because at first I was afraid of being alone. I really was. I did not want to be alone because I'd get into my own head. I'd start thinking about the past, combat, all kinds of stuff. And then a funny thing happened. I actually started to fall in love with being alone, enjoying being by myself. The solitude was nice to have quiet, because then I could start investing into myself and asking myself what it is that you want to do, John. What do you like doing? Who are you? What are some of the things that you've always wanted to look into, or you can call it investing in yourself with? And that's why I made it very vocal on social media. I started taking fencing lessons. I started taking vocal lessons. I started taking Argentinian tango lessons. I tried piano lessons there for a while. That didn't work out. I just wasn't into it. And that's helped bring me happiness. And that's a good thing. And you should do the same. Invest in yourself in regards to finding out what makes you happy. What is it that you like to do? Is it reading? Is it writing? Is it weightlifting, running? You just don't know. Life is like a buffet of all these things that you can do. So take some time to invest in you. Enjoy the buffet. And people, I think, will look down on if you like hobby hop. It's like, well, you don't stick with anything very long, because there's a lot of people like myself out there, same way. I've hopped through so many different hobbies. And I think the society kind of looks down on that. And I think it's wrong, because it's like going to a buffet and you try one food. It's like, I don't like that. I'm going to try the next one. Nobody judges you for that. That's feeling out your taste buds. Well, your emotional taste buds are kind of the same. You've got to figure out what it is that you enjoy. And ultimately, that falls under the umbrella of bettering yourself and self-investment. So I would highly suggest you do that while you're single. In regards to the sexual trauma, talk to somebody about this, a therapist, figuring out how to deal with this. But I'll be honest, when you enter into a new relationship, you've got to keep these things in mind. Is this somebody that you can trust? Is this somebody that you can actually come to the table with and have these kinds of discussions? Because you're going to find that some people, when you initially unload your baggage from the get-go, they're going to be scared away. And that's why it's kind of difficult to date sometimes, because you have to kind of gauge when the right time to talk about some of the things you've dealt with in the past is without scaring them. And I hate to say it, because it almost sounds like you're trying to take advantage, to where it's like you reel them in, you get them emotionally invested into, and then you air out the dirty laundry. And that's like, you've got to be able to figure that out on your own. It's like, when do you want to tell them this stuff? Because again, if I'm sitting down with a woman and the first date, she unloads everything on me, it can be a little intimidating, or for a man to do it to a woman, it can be very intimidating. And I think a lot of people, like myself especially, if somebody sits down at that table and they don't have their life together, I'm probably not interested, because I don't want to bring that drama into my life. Ergo, that's why you need to have your shit together before you start dating again. Have your life together. And I'm not saying that you have to have all your problems solved, but at least have a solution that you're working towards, if that makes any sense. So I hope that answers your question in regards to the sexual trauma and the physical problems. You said you've been getting a reach around from the VA. I mean, color me shocked there. That's just what the VA does. That's how they are. I shouldn't say that about all of them, but there's a good chunk of them that are like that. But you're going to have to figure that out, man. The other piece of advice I will give you is, do not drag the emotional baggage that you packed in a previous relationship into the new relationship. If a woman has been cheated on by a guy before in the past, or vice versa, and she brings those feelings into the new relationship, or he brings them into the new relationship, what you have to realize is essentially you are projecting your insecurities, which developed from being emotionally scarred from a previous person, onto the new person, and that's not fair to them. That's basically saying that I've been damaged before in the past, and you're going to have to kind of deal with this to an extent. If I hope that makes sense. And that's not fair to that person. So it's kind of like when you go and you start dating somebody, it's a clean slate. It is a clean slate. But also, you could just be honest with saying, like, these are the things that have happened to me in the past. This is why I kind of feel this way. And you just give them a better understanding of who it is that you are as a person. You take that for what it is. Compatibility is another big one out there that a lot of people don't think about. Compatibility is... It's a crucial thing that you have to have. Like, are you compatible with this person? Do you get along? And look, I'm going to give you a piece of advice that I wish I would say my younger self had got, but I probably wouldn't have listened because younger John thought he knew everything. Sex should not be the nucleus in which you build your relationship around. It's got to be more than just that. The sex should be good. Don't get me wrong. And even if it's not good, it's something that you can work on together and you can be honest with each other as far as what you enjoy in the bedroom. But it's got to go more than just sex. There has to be an emotional and intellectual connection. The hardest thing I've had to work on as far as being with somebody is to actually have them be my best friend. My best friend that you can tell everything to. And when I say tell everything to, I'm talking about the darkest fucking demons you've got in your head, the most creepiest skeletons you've got in your past, the most depraved or maybe embarrassing or proudest things, whatever the case. If you don't feel like you can disclose that to your partner because you're afraid that they could probably judge you and things like that, you probably shouldn't be with them. Or work on you actually disclosing those things, because if you're afraid to talk about it, eventually you're going to have to take that step into the unknown and trust. And trust is a very difficult thing, a very, very difficult thing, because as you get older, you get hurt a lot emotionally, and it scars you, and it makes you jaded, and then you try not to carry that into the next relationship. But it almost gets to the point where you get tired of dating. You get tired of going on Tinder. You get tired of the blind dates. You get tired of getting your hopes up. And then you say, well, you know what? I shouldn't get my hopes up. And then there's no zeal. There's no lust or a passion for the dating scene. There's nothing there. You just kind of feel like, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's kind of shouldn't be that way. It should be happy. You just got to keep those things in mind. That, again, and it all stems from working on yourself and being fully healed before you enter into a new relationship or the dating scene in general. And I will also tell you this. Do not settle because you're afraid to be alone. Don't do it. Because I'm telling you, that is your fault. If you enter into a relationship because you are just scared of being alone, I promise you 9 times out of 10, you're going to settle. And it might not hit you the first day, the first month, the first year, but eventually you're going to look over at that person that you've decided to settle down with and realize, I'm not happy because I settled, because I was afraid of being alone. And that person that you settled for, well, it's not their fault. They're probably genuinely happy, unless they settle for you, which, well, then you're good. But if they didn't and they genuinely love you, you're going to hurt them. You're going to hurt them because of your feelings, your fears, which is your fault. You got to be careful about that. Don't go into any relationship because you're just afraid of being alone. If you have codependency issues, you should not be dating. Those are issues that you need to work on. If you cannot be alone in the silence and be happy, you shouldn't be there. You should not be dating. You should instead be doing exactly that. I hate to say that because I know it's not easy, but it's like someone says, John, I suck at push-ups. Well, you should probably do more push-ups. You got to work on that. But I will tell you, man, when you settle, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting that other person more so than you'll ever realize. That's just my takeaway from a lot of what you've said here. And I sincerely hope it helps. And look, I'm sure there's other people out there that have much better and insightful advice they can give you and hopefully steer you in a positive direction, man. But I will just say this. You've got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anybody else out there. If you are not happy being alone, and I'll also put it this way as well, one thing I've had to work on is not being an empath to the point where somebody else's mood is going to dictate your own. Because I felt that a lot of the times, if my significant other, if my girlfriend or wife was not happy, then I could not be happy. And that's actually not true. You've got to be, put it this way, you are personally responsible for your own happiness. Your own happiness. That's on you. You cannot rely on the other person in that relationship to give you that happiness. Being around them should make you happy. Being who they are should make you happy. But the happiness in your life has to be created by you, the individual. Because if it isn't, that's where your codependency is going to develop, relying upon somebody else to create that happiness. And I think the thing that makes that so difficult is that because you love that person. If they're not happy, you don't want to see them unhappy, which in relation or in return is probably going to make you unhappy, but you can't be that way. And I know that sounds hard. I know that sounds mean. I know that sounds very emotionless, but it's actually not. Because when two people are unhappy together, there's no unhappiness. Or there's no happiness, rather. Hopefully that makes sense. I kind of get tongue-tied on these relationship things because, again, I am not the greatest dude out there when it comes to relationships in my past. And like I said, 2 failed marriages. One was for 10 years. One was for 4. And that's just my takeaway, man. I am by all means, or no stretch of the imagination, an expert on relationship advice. I'm just really not. But I know I've learned a lot in my 37 years in the dating scene, or in the world, rather. And being in the dating scene, it's miserable. You know, it is miserable. It's hard because, like I said, you go into a new date, you get your hopes up. You know, she's attractive. You know, she has a good job. She's educated. It's like, okay, this is great. And then you sit down and talk with them and realize you're about as intellectually deep as a puddle. And I can't be with somebody like that. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of people on social media, to include Tinder and things like that, that will project themselves to be one thing when in fact they're not. They're actually something completely different. And that's the thing that pisses me off the most. Or they'll use like a fake profile picture or an old profile picture. I went on one date with this lady who used a very, very beautiful picture. And I met with her, and she was actually about 50 pounds heavier than what she'd portrayed in her picture. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. To me, that's a lie. You lied. You knew what you were doing. Instead of being authentic and real and showing who you are now, you lied. I mean, did you think you'd walk into a date and sit down with that person and them not notice that you are incredibly way more overweight than in your profile picture, or all the filters you put on it? They're going to see the real you. If you cannot embrace and be happy with the real you, you should not be dating. If you are incredibly overweight and you use an old profile picture where you look skinnier, clearly you are not happy, or you're not confident in who you are now. Instead, you're going to use a different picture, which again, it's a lie. So I met this one lady, and I didn't tell her. I wasn't trying to be rude, but it bothered me right off the get-go. It's kind of like, you fucking lied. But we hit it off. You know, it was a good conversation. It was a good dinner. We actually had a lot of fun. Turns out she was a DEA agent. That was crazy. But she was a really nice woman. I appreciated the conversation. We had a really good dinner. Some really insightful conversation. But just like I said, the emotional and intellectual is paramount. There is also the sexual. And I just was not sexually attracted to her. I'm not sexually attracted to overweight women. I'm just not. I never will be. I can't help that. And that's I'm not talking about like a chiseled six-pack or anything, but I'm just talking about that she takes care of herself. So that was an issue for me that I did not like. I didn't appreciate that. And that's why it makes online dating so very, very difficult. And you kind of got to guard yourself a little bit too, because there's scammers, there's liars, there's people out there that are, they just present themselves to be one way. I went on a date with one woman who said she was very, very successful financially. She owned this company, yada, yada. I mean, or she didn't really say it, but she alluded to it in no uncertain terms. And then come to find out, she wasn't. She actually didn't really have a very good job. She was still living with her parents, and she was my age, and that kind of bothered me. It really bothered me, because it was just like, why would you not just be open and honest about that up front versus you try and fabricate this, and then later on, it's like, oh, well, by the way. So I kind of understand how that could be embarrassing, but that could be a make or break deal for a lot of people. If you are in your 30s and you're still living at home with your parents, you should not be dating. Now, don't get me wrong. if there are, extenuating circumstances to where you're taking care of your parents, or maybe you just got out of a recent divorce, I can understand that. But you better make that perfectly clear going into the date, saying, look, I just moved in, or I'm here for another month until I get this yet, just so that person knows that you are making strides to be better, to be on your own. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to date somebody that still live with their parents and they're in their 30s. Like, no, there's just, for the most part, unless there's there's an extenuating circumstances, there is no call for that. You're in your 30s. You should be independent. You should be on your own. But to wrap this up, and I know I've been all over the place, I'm not really good with relationship stuff. I'm just really not, because again, I've dated around a lot. I've slept around a lot. I'm not going to hide that shit. I don't care if people judge me. If they want to call me a degenerate, I don't give a fuck. That's just the way it goes. But I'll be open and honest about that shit. And also practice safe sex. Like, sincerely, practice safe sex. The dating scene right now is very dangerous. It is very dangerous. And I do get tested. But that's also one of those things that you got to safeguard yourself. So if you are going to, and to really quick caveat off of what I said initially, if you are going to sleep around, fuck it, I'll just say it. The reason why I was wrong on a lot of things in regards to sleeping around, do what you want. I'm not going to judge you for it. Like, look, I'm the last person to judge anybody, what you do in the bedroom, what you do in your sex life. I really don't fucking care. I think it's, you do what you want, what makes you happy. But I will tell you this, and this is something that I've come to learn and understand and where I was wrong. And this is my opinion, so you take this for what it is. Growing up, I was raised extremely religious, to where, traditional gender roles, church every Sunday and Wednesday, things like that. Don't cuss. Man, I've dropped the ball on that one. But that's how I was raised. And then the school I went to, and then the army, it was viewed as cool for a guy to sleep around with multiple women. Random hookups, one-night stands, going out there, getting your dick wet. It was a great thing. It was a good thing. What I didn't understand was that every time you sleep with somebody, you're exchanging energies. You're exchanging a piece of who you are. And that's very dangerous. Because when I think that's why most people will always remember their first, the person you lost your virginity to. Because it's special. It means something. When you become the type of person that you do it randomly, whenever, and with whomever, it kind of loses that specialness. And this is something I've learned very recently also. That you can sleep around and be thought of as a cool person, but I think a lot of the reasons why people do that is because they're trying to impress their friends. And that's where the toxic masculinity bullshit comes into play. Whenever you sleep with somebody, you're exchanging energies. You're exchanging, again, a piece of who you are. You're in a vulnerable state. You're naked. You're kissing them. You're all kinds of stuff. And you connect with that person. That's exchanging something. That's something special to an extent. When it comes repetitive with random people, it loses that speciality. And I feel like in my own past, I kind of died inside a little bit. Like, it was just something that I did to get off. And the more I thought about it, it was just one of these things to where it's like, I am really killing my soul inside. Now, this is me. I'm speaking for me here. I'm not talking about anybody else out there. This is just me. This is John. If you're different and you can go have sex with as many different people as you want and you're perfectly fine with that, that's fine. You've got to do what works for you. Some people just cannot make an emotional connection and they just need somebody to sleep with to get their rocks off. I get it. I don't think it's really healthy, but again, you've got to do what makes you happy. But that's the one thing I learned. In the past, I had done threesomes. You know, what guy in his right mind wouldn't want to do a threesome? You're fucking two different women. Absolutely. That's yeah. But then you come to understand that you're sharing that specialness with somebody else. And I was like, this is going to do more damage. Later on, looking back, it's like, that's done way more damage than I realized. Because again, you're chasing the physical stuff. And then you look back, it's like, wow, that really fucked me up, or that fucked up this relationship, or that had a lasting impact. Or, and here's the other thing I've learned, when you're dating other women and you're being honest about your sexual history, some are going to look at that and be intimidated by it because they're going to feel like you have a very wild sexual background, and they're going to be a little insecure about, am I going to be able to live up to this guy's sexual desires? Because he's been around. He's done a lot. Am I, maybe I'm not as sexually experienced. Maybe he's going to lose interest in me. Something like that. So you got to keep these things in mind. And I wish somebody would have told me this at a young age, but again, I probably wouldn't have listened. That's just how I am. But when two people come together and there's that emotional connection, the intellectual one, and the sexual attraction is already there, there's something special that happens there. I truly believe that. But I feel like the sexual experience only magnifies the emotional one. That when you find out that you can be raw and real with that person in bed and then open up emotionally, it's like you've just tethered yourself to them. And that's why breakups kind of suck. That's why failed marriage, ending marriages, it hurts. It sucks because, again, it's just one of those things that person you are connected to, you're no longer connected to, and you can end it at the drop of a hat. And a lot of people have dealt with that. Relationships just ending so quickly that it leaves you scarred, that you kind of live in fear of like, is this going to end very quickly? Do I have to worry about this? And people kind of get in their own heads. And that's why I kind of had to adopt the position of just let it be. Live in the now and just let it be. Don't look into it. Don't read into it. Just be happy with what it is. Communicate. All these things. So, again, I am not an expert on this stuff. I've just been around the block a few times. I've been with a few women. I shouldn't say few. I've been with, 20 or 30. I don't know. I don't really count. And those are just the lessons I've learned. And I fucked up in my past. I won't even lie about that. I have no reason to, I am not a perfect human being. If somebody's going to hold this and clip this and say later on that, well, John, what about, yeah, I fucked up in the past. I've admitted that. And I was wrong for it. And I realized the damage it's done to other people. I realized the damage other people have done to me. And it makes the dating scene a very, very difficult place to navigate because, again, it's like we're all trying to hide our scars and keep from getting hurt while at the same time connecting with somebody. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. So I still have my libertarian ideas and beliefs that you do what you want to do. Live the life that you want to live. Date whomever you want to date. Sleep with whomever you want to sleep with. I don't care what you do in the bedroom. If you want to go in there and get crazy with some KY jelly and chocolate syrup and, a weed or a chicken, like I don't give a fuck what you do with those feathers. But the point is, though, it's just like keep in mind that when you're hooking up with somebody, you are giving a piece of yourself away. And eventually you're going to give so much of yourself away that by the time you find that one person that you actually care about, there might not be anything left for you to give. And, so again, I appreciate your question. And I know I have just been all over the place and probably haven't made a lot of sense. I hope I have. I'm not good with relationship stuff, not to this level. But I do want to say, Jack, I hope that you get the help that you need for your sexual trauma in the past. I would say heal yourself first before you get back into the dating scene. Figure yourself out, figure out what it is that you love, that you enjoy, that you like doing, and pursue that. Because before you can be happy with somebody else, you have to be happy being on your own. You've got to be happy being on your own. I had dated one woman for about 4 months, very successful woman, internationally published model, actually. And she was a very genuine, kind-hearted woman. And she was happy being alone, and she helped me to understand the reasoning behind that. And we didn't work out, but I'm grateful for what I learned from that relationship and what she taught me, and vice versa for her. And then other relationships I had after that. I've had relationships last for a month, a week, 3 months, 9 months. And it's just been one of those things of like, that's part of the dating process. If it doesn't work and you're in a relationship every 3 or 4 months because it just turns out that person, when they eventually do open up, you don't like that person, then you got to move on. And it sucks because you've invested a lot of time and effort into that. But it's kind of like just one of those things of just enjoy it. Let it be what it is and let it develop, So, all right. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope that this maybe helped guide you in a good direction. But again, in closing, I would just simply say work on yourself. Be happy with who you are. Figure out the things that do make you happy. Focus on that. And then when you are secure in who it is that you are as an individual, then get out there and hit the dating scene if that's truly what you want. Just kind of ask yourself those questions before you just go willy-nilly into the great unknown of the love world and get yourself hurt because you weren't ready, you know? So there you have it. I appreciate your love and support. I hope that answered your question. And again, we'll be doing these every Tuesday and Thursday. Josh will be with me next time. He had to run home early today. He had some family stuff he had to take care of. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. I appreciate you sharing the podcast. We'll have this uploaded. It'll be on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So until then, I will talk to y'all tomorrow for the All American Savage Show podcast, where we're going to be talking about some other heated issues that are coming up. We should have the new John Ross video edited and done for you by then. And until then, I really appreciate everything that y'all have done to support us. And again, if you want to win this new John Ross, this authentic John Ross, go sign up at the allamericансavageshow.com for the email list. And we're going to pick a lucky winner. And every time we do these John Ross videos, one of the winners is going to be picked from that email list. So until then, I appreciate you. Thank you for all your love and support of shellshockcbd.com. Make sure you follow us on Telegram. You can look it up at the link in my bio on Instagram, on the link tree there. And until then, we will talk to you all.